Man, this Iron Bowl week keeps getting better and better.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are dapping it up on this Wednesday edition of the show with Montgomery radio legend, the Darrell Dapprich. We're going to talk about what Auburn needs to do to beat Alabama. And it involves a lot of Jarquez Hunter. It involves solid game from Peyton Thorne, as well as just kind of the chatter that's now happening back and forth between Auburn and Tuscaloosa. It's I love it. Darrell, you and I talked off air. You're not as huge of a fan of the smack talk, the public smack talk as I am.
So here's the deal. Number one, I am not saying that no one has to subscribe to my way of thinking about this. I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong. I'm just letting you know how I feel about it. I hate it. I completely disagree with you and Charlie Five and all the young guys. I truly believe it's a generational thing, and that goes both ways. We can look staunchy and prude and, on one end, and the young guys you could say about the young guys that it's just generational and it's a different thing. I hate it. I'm old school, and I just feel like you keep your mouth shut. You respect your opponent. It has nothing to do with confidence and swag. You can have all the confidence and swag in the world that you want. Just keep it to yourself or keep it to the locker room. No reason to go public with it. There's nothing to be gained. And again, I don't mean this arrogantly or kind of to sound condescending. I think it's just about how old I am, a generational thing. Anybody under 30 or under 35 thinks this is the greatest thing since sliced bread that these guys are saying this. Anybody over 50 is cringing and going, shut up. Why are you saying this? You don't need bulletin board material. You don't. And again, I get it. It's not going to, if Alabama can't get up for a game against Auburn and needs this to get them motivated, but still, I'm 100% against it. You fear no one, but you respect everyone as far as whether you're playing the game. And so, and it's funny because the younger generation thinks it's great, thinks it's bold, thinks that, hey, we need to say it with our chest and be confident. And there's nothing wrong with being confident. I just don't think you need to put it out there publicly. And you can be confident without being critical and criticizing and putting people down. And that happened too. There's no reason to go after people and kind of, belittle what they've accomplished. And that happened. I mean, that just did.
Yeah, it did happen. It did happen. And then Alabama's response to it,
just as funny.
Which is interesting. Jalen Milroe, the Bama quarterback, was asked about DeMarcus Riddick's comments, who talked about, how he's faster than him. He's not going to get out of the pocket. They're going to shut him down, all that stuff. And Milroe, I mean, you could tell he wasn't comfortable when he answered this question, but he was like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, okay, hold on. Either you're just like super not plugged in because this is an in-state guy that Alabama wanted. Okay, like fine, whatever. But you're essentially just admitting if you truly don't know who he is, like, are you not watching tape? Because that's going to be the guy who's probably asked to spy you on several occasions. It's like, you don't know who DeMarcus Riddick is? Like, I'm sorry, I don't believe you.
No, it has to be one of the two scenarios, and I would bet my life it's not scenario 2 where he doesn't truly know who he is and doesn't watch it. He not only does he know who he is by watching film, he knows who he is because Nick Saban escorted him around campus last year on one of his visits. And if Jalen Milroe, who's your starting quarterback, did not interact with one of the biggest recruits that Nick Saban wanted at Alabama and who spent a lot of time with and escorted, that's totally disingenuous. He knew who he was last year when he was on campus. He probably has shook the young man's hand, to be honest with you. So that's
probably made a sales pitch for them to be teammates.
Absolutely. So that's just a disingenuous diss to just like, I don't even know who that is. And, that happens all the time. People try to throw shade. I don't know who that guy is, but that's what that is. It's not true. It's absolutely
not knowing your opponent is
but it's not even an opponent thing. He knew him when he was a recruit, 100% convinced. So
yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, is that how this Iron Bowl is going to be remembered regardless? Like, there's so many different chapters to this awesome rivalry. And this is kind of an unexpected twist and an unexpected turn that I wasn't really expecting. And I love the confidence on the Auburn side of this. Man, that win against Texas A&M did a lot of things, both on the field and off the field. And I think the loss from Alabama to Oklahoma, I think it did a lot of things on the field and off the field in the other direction. And I'm just thinking, like, how is this Iron Bowl, like the buildup, going to be remembered? And it's going to be remembered by DeMarcus Riddick and Cam Coleman saying all kinds of stuff. And I think it's hilarious.
You think it's hilarious, and I think it's a freaking shame.
Shame?
I do.
A shame? Really?
I'm not. I didn't say a shame. Duh. I'm saying it's a shame that this rivalry and this game and this historical whole aspect of it is going to be remembered, or leading up to it, we're going to be talking about two 19-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids saying stupid things rather than what's going to happen on the field. And again, I get it. Get off my lawn. I'm old. Everyone can rip me, but that's just how I feel about it. And it started getting chippy a couple years ago with all the, karate stuff and all that. And that's fine. It's in the course of the game. That's
it's different. On the field.
It's on the field. And it was, it got a little chippier. And there's a little edge to it. And so, but this Iron Bowl need the actual matchups and the game itself and everything that is getting played for needs to take precedence. Now, maybe it's because it's not as big as it's been in years past, with Alabama having 3 losses and Auburn not even bowl eligible yet. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a point you made is very, very important. We shouldn't gloss over, and that's that the dynamics of this game has completely flipped in just 1 week. I think this game looks different than it would have a week ago if Alabama was totally solidified in a playoff spot and Auburn had lost to A&M and didn't have a chance to be bowl eligible. I think that game looks different. The dynamics of that game's different. Now that Alabama's on the outside looking in and has a low chance to make the playoffs, and Auburn is hanging on and has a chance for bowl eligibility, I think the whole dynamics of this football game changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, one fan base has confidence, whether that's silly or not. I don't know. I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But Auburn has more confidence going to an Iron Bowl than I've seen in a long time. I mean, and that's why I like the messaging, or I guess I'm more okay with the messaging from Riddick and Cam Coleman. Were there other ways to do it? Sure, 100%. But to send the message of, like, we're not afraid of you, I think does go a long way, because I do think we've said this for years, like during the decade and a half of dominance of Alabama, I think people would psych themselves out because they were playing, the great dynasty that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I do think that's gone. I do think that aspect of it is gone. I mean, you would see teams play scared, play super conservative, and do stuff that doesn't make sense against Alabama. And I do like that Auburn is giving off the vibes, giving off the approach and the messaging that they're not concerned about that anymore. And I do think that matters. And I do think that's worth some points. How many points? I don't know.
I'm not saying that that's unimportant. And I'm 100% convinced that you could still give off those vibes, that you're not afraid of Alabama without saying it the way you said it. And second of all, sometimes when you say something like that, you're trying to convince yourself of the exact opposite. You're talking yourself into it, right? And so that you got to be careful about that. I mean, I don't know. I think that DeMarcus Riddick is a great young man. I love his confidence. I don't think he's at all scared or intimidated by Alabama. Same with Cam Coleman. I'm 100% convinced a lot of the freshmen are not, and they're a different breed. I'm not asking them to be.
Sure.
I'm just saying maybe there's maybe when that question's asked, you say, hey, we fear no one. We respect Alabama, but you think we're going to go out there scared or wide-eyed, you're wrong. We're coming after him. Just like Dye did when he, pregame, we shook Bear Bryant's hand. I get it. It's old, but, he just said, you need to know we're coming after your bleep. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You should be confident to win the game.
Yeah, so that's the whole reason you do this. Is
the whole reason you do this.
For sure.
But there's a way of doing it without putting down your opponent too and making them less than. And that's where I have the problem. When you start calling out individual players, that changes.
Yeah, and I guess only Riddick did that, because I don't think Cam really.
No, right.
Yeah. So correct. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Hey, look, if Auburn's going to pull this off, they need another crazy game from Jarquez Hunter. How do they do that? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time has you covered, and it's the best place to buy tickets. Download the free Game Time app today and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Darrell, there are so many great features within this app. The panoramic view from your seat. You can toggle all-in pricing. You've mentioned that you love the lightning deals. They curate the best deal for you. Game Time is your one-stop shop when it comes to buying tickets.
How about that? How about if you just wanted to buy tickets to multiple events, you put them all on your card at the same time? Oh, I want to go to a play. I want to go to a concert. I want to go to a game.
Wow.
And oh, by the way, I'm checking out and I've got it all right there.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. Absolutely. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Darrell, what time is it?
Game time.
Yes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. For your second listen, if you missed our live reaction that happened at like a little after midnight last night, go and check that out, of course, and we'll be live today after Auburn's basketball game as well. So be sure to check that out. Darrell, to me, I don't know if they can get to 30 touches with Jarquez Hunter because he got to 32, but he had overtime and some extra touches there. But I think the goal needs to be to get as close as you can to 30 with Jarquez Hunter, because if you look at it, that was the discussion of what South Carolina did to Texas A&M. And now that's the discussion of what Oklahoma did to Alabama. And Auburn can run the football. They've made that very, very clear. When they want to run the football, they've been able to. And to me, I think that's going to kind of make or break this team. Does Jarquez Hunter have one more game in him? And I think he does.
Yeah, and I think there's a precedence for that. If you look at Auburn last year being in a position to win that game and should have won that game, they did that with Peyton Thorne having a horrific passing day. Mm-hmm. Why did they do that? Well, Peyton Thorne ran the ball effectively. Jarquez Hunter ran the ball effectively, and Damari Alston ran the ball effectively. I think that has to happen again on Saturday. Okay. I think that Jarquez Hunter, there's a stat that when he touches the ball 20 times or more, Auburn's like 4-0, 20 times or less. I think they're 2-6 because one game. There's just like this really weird stat that's, I think, very telling. Yeah. So here's the thing, though. If, unlike last year, I believe that Peyton Thorne has improved, and I think the passing game has improved, and we know the receiver room has improved. So unlike last year, where if Alabama stopped the run, Auburn didn't have an alternative. I'm not saying you go heavy. I'm still saying you go heavier on the run as far as a mix. But if something happens and they put a bunch in the box and they dare you to throw, Auburn's in a little better position this year than they were last year to adjust to that.
I agree with that. And I think there's two sides of the coin for that. I think one, Auburn is better, and two, I don't think Alabama's as good as a year ago either. So, yeah, 100%. I just don't want the offense, and I know Peyton Thorne has been better down the stretch, and we've talked him up this week, but there's a difference between like trusting him more and still wanting the offense to go through him. And I still think they need to do everything they can to make the offense go through the running game. And that could be Peyton Thorne in the running game. I think we do see more of him with his legs. I thought we'd see more of him with his legs against A&M. That wasn't really the case. After winning last week, it really feels like all the chips are being pushed to the middle of the table. And like, you don't have to worry about durability. You don't have to worry about, who's going to be available next week. You can go all out and almost be reckless to some extent. You want to be controlled, right? But as far as mitigating risk, I don't think you have to do that anymore. So run your quarterback. He's a good runner. Run Jarquez. He can handle one more game with a heavy load. Go all in. And I think that plays to Auburn's favor.
It does. Auburn being the underdog here has a lot less to lose, apparently, although I would argue that you win and you get to a bowl game, there is something there to gain. Alabama has more to lose. If they were to get beat, they were absolutely out of the playoff conversation. So the pressures, they're playing at home.
Their fan base burns Tuscaloosa down.
Yes. And the the whole playing at home, they're expected to win. There's just a lot of different variables there where Auburn can cut it loose and play a little bit more carefree. The defense playing better. What do they do against Milroe? That's the most intriguing thing to me. Does Durkin construct a defense? And I think he feels pretty confident that there's some things that Auburn can do defensively. Does he devise a scheme and a plan that you say, okay, to beat us, Jalen Milroe's got to throw for 250 and a couple touchdowns. We're going to take the run game away from him. There's a lot of different sidebars to this. Alabama's got an effective running game. Milroe's an elite runner. Their defense at times can be really, really disruptive. They got a pretty decent secondary. So
yeah, they're a good team. Yeah.
It's amazing to me that a lot of their fan base is just like thinking that they're going to lose this game. And I'm going, where are you getting that from? I mean, I don't.
And I do expect that to change over the course of the week. I do expect. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of it. When you're not used to losing, sometimes even when you are, it stings for a few days, and then by the time the next Saturday rolls around, you're ready to go. I mean, how many times have we seen that with Auburn? So to me, I agree with you, but I do think we're going to kind of see that drop off over the course of the week, and Alabama's going to be ready for Auburn. I think DJ Durkin's game plan against Texas A&M was really solid. I wonder how different it's going to be against Milroe, because similar. I mean, I think Milroe's better than what Texas A&M fielded, but still, it's going to be about containment. It's going to be about limiting him. And then, you take out Ryan Williams, which, I don't think A&M had anybody close to what Ryan Williams presents from a threat standpoint. But I do wonder how different the game plan is going to be.
Yeah, I think it'd be very similar. Milroe probably has a bigger weapon than Ryan Williams, even though Texas A&M has some pretty good receivers. I think Ryan Williams is elite. Milroe has shown in the past that he can make those throws. And has made some good throws. So it's probably a little bit different. His experience level is a lot higher than Reed at A&M. But I think the game plan has to be similar. You have to spy him. You have to try to keep him inside the pocket. You can't let him get outside. Riddick is going to be key in that, which is ironic. And then if you're Auburn, if you can force Milroe into a couple of turnovers early by taking the run game away and making him throw it, I think it completely changes the complexion of the game. But again, they've got some running backs that can run it and can gash you. So yeah, Durkin's game plan to me, and I'm not in that room, is make Milroe beat us with his arm and take away his running ability, his running lanes, and his legs completely. And if he does that, you just tip your cap and move on.
Yep. I agree with that. What else do we need to see? Who else could be guys that potentially step up on Saturday? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Happy Iron Bowl week. Happy Thanksgiving week. And thank you for spending it here on Locked On Auburn. The everydayers know that we are here multiple times every single day. And of course, live after every Auburn basketball and football game. So be sure to subscribe, whether you're watching or listening. We really, really appreciate it. So there's been a lot of talk about Riddick, been a lot of talk about Thorne and Jarquez and Cam Coleman. Let's each give a guy on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball that could play a major factor on Saturday. And I'm going to start with the name that I've heard outside of the show. We haven't really talked about him a ton on the show, but I think this could be a Rivaldo Fairweather game. I think he could be a guy that presents a mismatch on the inside of the field, and he's been kind of solid down the stretch here.
It's a good name. I had him as my second choice. It was somebody I was tempted to use because the middle of the field is going to be key. So yeah, and he's made some big plays in isolated moments. It's not been a lot, but when he has, they've been pretty his effort diving in the end zone from the 3. And so I really like him, especially in the red zone. I have a feeling that KLS is going to have something. Keandre Lambert-Smith is going to have some sort of significant impact on this game. I really do. I just see him, just keeps getting week in, week out, just keeps,
just been solid, man.
Elevating his game and making big play after big play. And so I could see him having a couple big plays in him for Saturday.
How do you think Who do you think is more likely to lead Auburn in receiving, Cam Coleman or Keandre Lambert-Smith?
Keandre Lambert-Smith.
Yeah, I think I agree. I will make the case that I think it's better for Auburn if Cam Coleman leads in receiving, because I think KLS is going to have his 80-ish yards no matter what. But, I think Cam Coleman's ceiling is far higher. And if they both pop for, 80 plus, I think that really gives you a solid chance to win. But I agree. If I had to pick who leads, I would say KLS. What about the defensive side of the ball? Is there a guy that stands out to you that says, hey, we're probably not talking about this guy as much?
Jay Crawford.
Okay.
He has been really, really good. I'm curious as to who will draw Ryan Williams. You would assume it's Kayan Lee. So for that reason, whoever they put on the other side, Crawford is going to have an opportunity, I think, to make an impact on this game. And I think he'll be in a position to do that. I really like the way he's played. And I think, I don't think they're going to put him on Williams. I think it's going to be Kayan Lee and Williams, and then he'll have an opportunity on another Alabama receiver to make an impact.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Keldrick Falk. He's kind of not been discussed a ton over the last few weeks, and some of that is just is normal to expect a lot from him, and he typically delivers. But we've talked more about J-Mac and Kieran Crawford, I think, over the last few weeks. So I want to give some, shed some light on Keldrick Falk. And if he's a dude where, he has the ability to take over on Saturday for a few plays, even if it's one drive, that could be the difference, especially if it's early, and especially if it sends a tone or sets the tone and sends a message to Jalen Milroe early on that, hey, we're coming for you. And, you kind of hope you get the Milroe that you saw against Oklahoma last week. I think Keldrick Falk establishing it early could send a message that helps Auburn a ton.
McLeod and Crawford, mentioning them is going to be so key with how they rush upfield, because they're going to have to keep contained. They're going to have to hold the edge. If you over pursue on Milroe and you let him get outside, it's Katie bar the door. So I think McLeod and Crawford keeping him inside the pocket that allows it to collapse is going to be big. We've already talked about Riddick spying him once he gets outside the pocket. But collapsing Milroe in the pocket and keeping him and keeping your edge is going to be big. And McLeod and Crawford are going to have huge, huge responsibilities and tasks doing that.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I mean, you could there's an argument for every guy on defense, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
They're just asked to do so much. And then on offense, it's more of like, what scheme are they going with? So goodness gracious. I know we've already said it, but I love the feeling of feeling like you could do something. And I mean, just the total difference from how we felt about this game a month ago to now is just insane.
Yeah, it is insane. It's amazing. And the way that fan base, the Alabama fan base, as of right now, feels about it as opposed to a month ago is insane. And I think those two converging forces are what's going to make this game interesting.
No doubt.
More interesting than we thought 3 weeks ago.
No doubt. Darrell, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, and then I'm with you on Wednesdays and Fridays after the basketball games live, and then the reaction show after the Iron Bowl. I'll be going live with you, and we'll do the reaction show. So we'll got a lot of double dips coming up.
Yeah, and just a programming note, we'll have two shows today. The second show today will be a squad show, and then as well as we'll have three, the reaction show for Auburn basketball. And then tomorrow on Thursday, Thanksgiving, expecting to have two shows there as well, and then two shows on Friday. So normal schedule, actually even more, just because it's a holiday week doesn't mean we are not taking any days off. So please like the video, please subscribe. We're so close to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. As we record this, we're less than 500 away. So please help us get there. That's super, super cool. Once again, like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.